Let's bring in Liberal MP Julian Leeser, who joins us live from Canberra. Thanks for joining us, Julian. Look,
Thanks, Chris.
Someone very experienced in these issues, and as a Jewish Australian, you must see now that what has been a long-standing bipartisan position on support for Israel and two-state solution for the Middle East, that's gone now. The bipartisanship has been shredded, surely, by this vote at the UN last Friday night.
Yes, I didn't disagree with a single word you said in your editorial, Chris. I think this is a shameful day in the history of Australian foreign policy. Our foreign policy should be based on our values. We are a Western liberal democracy. We believe in the rule of law. Those are the things which should shape our foreign policy. And yet, by the Labor government's actions in siding with terrorists in this motion, they have undermined those values, and they've basically said that they would favour those who've chosen the pathway of violence and terrorism over those who would choose the pathway of negotiation and peace. We used to have a bipartisan position in relation to Israel. I don't think that position exists anymore. This has not been about foreign policy. This has been about grubby domestic policy that has more to do with Grayndler than Gaza. And all this does is embolden the anti-Semitic protesters we are seeing on our university campuses and disappoints our allies around the world.
This is what I get your thoughts on, because this is what really worries me. Obviously, this rewards terrorism. Penny Wong tries to argue this repudiates Hamas. Hamas will be celebrating this. This sort of voting at the United Nations is wind beneath their wings. And it will also give a lot of succour to, as you say, protesters here and Islamist extremists who, as we know, have allegedly been active in our midst just in recent times. This obviously not only is diplomatically and in terms of values and morality the wrong decision, doesn't it endanger national and global security?
I think it does, Chris. This motion has come in the context of the worst terrorist attack ever committed against the Jewish people since the foundation of the State of Israel, where 1,200 innocent people were murdered, where you had rapes and maiming of bodies, where you had people taken hostages which still are not released, which this motion did not mention. This motion did not mention Hamas and the terror attacks, but it comes hot on the heels of those attacks, and it changes the status of Palestine as a result of this, as a result of those particular terror attacks. It doesn't send us down the path of peace, and the path of a lasting two-state solution is where all the actors, all the Palestinian actors recognise Israel's right to exist, and where they achieve statehood with two people and two states living peacefully side by side through negotiation. All this says is that Australia is prepared to stand with, and I should say the Australian Labor Party, because it's not me, I don't stand with this, and I think most Australians don't stand with this, but the Australian Labor Party is prepared to stand with those who would use violent means in order to achieve their aims. And that's not just bad for the people of Israel or for Jewish people, it is bad for peaceful, freedom-loving people right around the world.
I couldn't agree more. It is just so shameful, but there's nothing that can be done to repair this now, right? This has happened, and it comes on back of the Labor government also pulling away Australia's retreating from our position that the capital should be in Jerusalem. So there's a significant shift here by Labor away from supporting Israel and taking a decision that gives succour to terrorists. The only way to deal with it is to change the government and re-establish the settings that have guided Australian foreign policy on these issues for many, many decades.
Well, Chris, there's only one party in this parliament that will stand with the State of Israel, that will stand for Western liberal values, that will stand for democracy and the rule of law, and that is the Liberal and National parties. The Labor Party have demonstrated that they are incapable of doing so. Chris, it's worthwhile remembering before the last election, senior Labor figures told the Jewish community in articles in the Jewish News that there was no difference between Labor and the coalition on Israel. And that was the biggest lie that they have ever told, because even before the 7th of October, we saw Labor backing away for Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, Labor doing bad things in the United Nations and voting against Israel, Labor restoring funding to UNRWA. And as we've seen what happened with UNRWA, where there were several of its employees involved in the 7th of October attacks, and UNRWA headquarters were used in order to to be a serious headquarters for Hamas during the course of their operations.
I'll dig out.
On every occasion when Labor has had the opportunity to stand with the Jewish community of Australia and the State of Israel or back other interests, they've chosen not to stand with the Jewish community and the State of Israel, and that is shameful.
It is indeed. I'll dig those articles out because what you've outlined there again is another broken promise by this government. Thanks for joining us, Julian. Julian Leeser there with the Coalition.